Hello and welcome. My name is Jason. I'm the CEO of Stingray's Bookkeeping. My website is stingraysbookkeeping.com. I have a YouTube channel, Professor Stingray's Small Business Bookkeeping Made Easy. Earning a degree in accounting was more difficult to me due to my post-concussion syndrome issues. I was encouraged to take a long sabbatical, and I wrote my own autobiography, The Journey of Two Angels. It was written in a format of one extremely long creative writing session that lasted 7 months. I created a website, journeyoftwoangels.com. The full journal, as of 2025, is unpublished. I'm using the autobiography as source material. I'm creating several topic-specific sub-books under the series title of Two Angels. Both Two Angels on my website and Two Angels on Amazon Kindle. Two Angels, the Unheard Voices of CTE. These are 8 athletes that gave their lives for CTE research. Their deaths were seen as suicides for depression or money woes, and their real reason, their voice is unheard. The real reason was for CTE research. These 8 athletes were our heroes. We cheered them on Sundays or on Saturday nights for the wrestling. They were our heroes on the field. They were our pillars of the community off the field. I think they were heroes leading the research in CTE. And I wanted to give their voices a lasting voice so they can be heard through many years. Both of my books, my 2 sub-books, My Life Living CTE, as well as Unheard Voices, are on my website, Journey of Two Angels, as well as Amazon Kindle. Dave Duerson, age 50, passed away February 17th, 2011. He shot himself in the chest, leaving a suicide note saying donating his brain to science. There are going to be quite a few of these athletes committing suicide on my channel, and they all have one thing in common. They all left notes asking for their brain to be donated to science, or donated to BU, which is Boston University, or Dr. Omalu. ProFootballHistory.com article written by Posh De La Rosa. What happened to Dave Duerson? The story. With Dave Duerson's exceptional play in the safety position, the Chicago Bears became a juggernaut during the Mike Ditka era in the mid to late 80s, 85, 86. Duerson strung together 4 straight Pro Bowl seasons from 85 to 88, when the Monsters of the Midway enjoyed the most successful stretch in franchise history. No matter how hard Duerson got hit on the football field, he only knew one way to play: at full speed. When Duerson's high school football career wound down, he chose the University of Notre Dame because of the pristine campus and potential connections to the business world, per Soltaroff. Dave Duerson attended the University of Notre Dame from 79 to 82. He majored in economics and eventually graduated with honors. Now, part of the story, they talk about him losing money in businesses towards the end, and clearly he did not have problems understanding how to do business and finance. The problems were because of the brain issues. Alicia, his wife, told Men's Journal some 3 decades later that her husband's day photographic memory allowed him to ace his tests in college, even though he barely studied for them. Little did Dave and Alicia know that later superior memory would deteriorate and eventually betray him far into his retirement days many years later. Duerson earned consecutive All-American honors in the 81-82 NCAA seasons. In the next phase of his gridiron journey, Dave Duerson would become an integral part of the dominant Chicago Bears defense that turned the team into a juggernaut in the mid to late 80s. Duerson's exploit as safety and dominating defense, Chicago went 15-1 during the '85 NFL campaign. Duerson showed everyone he was for real with 5 interceptions during the regular season. Mike Ditka's Bears, the Monsters of the Midway, manhandled the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 20, 46-10. That team featured the likes of Jim McMahon, Walter Payton, William the Refrigerator Perry, Mike Singletary, and Richard Dent, among others. For this part, Duerson had earned the first of his 2 career Super Bowl rings. Dave Duerson spent the 1990 NFL season with the Bill Parcells New York Giants. Duerson came off the bench as safety and helped Big Blue win 13 games that year. The Giants went on to defeat the Buffalo Bills in Super Bowl 25, 20-19. Dave Duerson was a Super Bowl champion for the second time in his memorable 11-year NFL career. Super Bowl winning 85 for the Bears and 1990 with the New York Giants. Zlataroff confirmed Duerson suffered multiple minor concussions during that time frame. Fortunately, none of those reached a point where Duerson had lost consciousness on the football field. His wife, Alicia, remembered Duerson gutting it out each time he got concussed. If he had a concussion in the second half of a game, he'd be back at the practice by Wednesday the following week. Just as Duerson made the transition into retirement, Chicago Republican and Democratic office urged him to run for office. Although the idea piqued Duerson's interest, he realized it wasn't his cup of tea in the end, per Men's Journal. The Indiana Football Hall of Fame inducted Duerson on August 7, 1998. Duerson began manifesting the ill effects of playing on the gridiron in February of 2005. The University of Notre Dame campus authorities saw Duerson throw Alicia, his wife, against a wall of the inn they were staying in. Police subsequently charged Duerson with misdemeanor battery. Worse, the school dropped him as a member of its board of trustees. Our remorseful Duerson deeply regretted the situation with Alicia. My wife and I had an argument in South Bend, and I lost control for 3 seconds. Duerson told Rob Trucks in November 2010 via the Chicago Tribune that I was a one-time event, the most disappointing of my life, but one that will never, ever be repeated. Duerson experienced football-related trauma 3 years after the Notre Dame incident. He felt pain on the left side of his brain, and he experienced blurry vision, headaches, difficulty spelling, and memory issues. I have the same problems. Alicia told the Chicago Tribune that Dave, who drove around the Windy City with no issues during his younger days, suddenly needed a map to remember where he was going. I'm sure he understood and knew the map of Chicago like I know the city of Dallas. So needing a map to get around Chicago was probably very frustrating to him, caused by the brain concussions. Dave Duerson also repeatedly forgot dates and venues of his daughter Taylor's upcoming volleyball tournaments. Duerson's habits weren't consistent with somebody who had a bachelor's degree from Notre Dame and a certificate from the Harvard Business School Executive Education Program. When his memory issues persisted, he began writing things down to cope more effectively. Duerson's loved ones began to suspect that he had chronic traumatic, and I can't say the CTE, a brain disorder caused by repeated blows to the head and common in contact sports like football and hockey and wrestling. The ChicagoTribune.com article dated February 26, 2011, roughly 9 days post Dave Duerson's death. The Final Days of Dave Duerson by Becky Urich, Steve Jamecki, David Howe, Dan Pompey, and Vaughn McClure. If I messed up y'all's names, I'm sure I did. I am sorry. They call it the City of Sun and Sea, the Venice of America. Beautiful sunny Isle Beach, Florida is located on a barrier island surrounded by Miami, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Intercoastal Waterway. The Peach and White Ocean One building on Collins Avenue is a place where snowbirds come to leave life's cares behind. The circular brick paver driveway leads to a magnificent 3-story lobby covered in marble tile. Guests pamper themselves at the spa, dine at the bistro, or enjoy a private cabana on the white sand beach out back. The condos feature huge balconies with panoramic views. It's the kind of place where men wear flip-flops and baseball caps and women sip from fancy glasses filled with fruit and paper parasols. If people had worries in sunny Owls Beach, you'd be hard-pressed to see them. This is where Dave Duerson chose to die. Monday, February 14th, Duerson speaks with sons Chase, 27, Treg, 25, Brock, 21, and daughter Taylor, 15, for the last time on the phone. He wishes them happy Valentine's Day and tells them he loves them. Divorce can be difficult on kids. The unexpected death of a parent can be even more so. Duerson's children who live in Chicago area never considered they would spend the last week discussing wills and memorials. It's an open sore for them at this point, said Alicia Duerson, Dave's wife, for 25 years before their 2008 divorce. Duerson wanted to be closer to his children. Taylor had visited her father in Florida recently. As part of his divorce, Duerson was required to carry a life insurance policy on himself with Taylor as the sole beneficiary. His attorney did not return calls to clarify whether the policy is void in the event of a suicide. With this type of thing, it's hard for kids to understand, Alicia Duerson said, especially for my youngest. Today, February 15th, late evening, security cameras filmed Duerson entering Ocean 1 and taking the elevator to a sixth floor to his two-bedroom unit. It is the last recording of Duerson coming home. His friends thought Duerson had much to live for. In my own commentary, it's not about depression. It wasn't about being unhappy. The note saying, donate my brain to BU, donate the brain to science, makes this null and void. His friends thought Duerson had much to live for. It's CTE. It was like a pandemic. It was an epidemic. He thought he could help many others. He recently was engaged to Antoinette Stykes, a public relations specialist in Washington. Angel is how he introduced her around Sunny Island Beach. They were to be wed in the spring. The couple sent out holiday cards with their pictures from vacation. I've never seen him happier, said Ron Ben David, general manager of the Ocean One. He knew Duerson for about 2.5 years. He was very excited, Ben David said. He mentioned to me he had some good things on the horizon, something big with one of his big food distributions. Duerson, who turned 50 in November, had a lot going on. He liked to ride motorcycles. He kept busy with his consulting firm, D.D. Favor, which specialized in turnaround strategies and startups for food companies. He had his weekly internet radio show, Double Time with Double D, on voicecamerasports.com. One of his guests shortly before the Super Bowl was the Reverend Jesse Jackson. He was in good spirits, Jackson said. We were laughing and playing, talking about Super Bowl choices. He was a trustee on the Player Benefits Board of the NFL Players Association, the NFLPA, a member of the Push Excel Board of Directors, and held a seat on the Bears Alumni Advisory Board. Duerson also contacted former agent Steve Zucker in January to put out feelers for NFL coaching opportunities. Duerson Bears teammates Leslie Frazier, now head coach of the Vikings, told reporters Duerson left him a message a couple weeks ago about coaching. To Frazier's regret, they never connected. Dave had a lot of irons in the fire, said Darrell Davis, a business associate who had been in contact with Duerson recently. Davis and Duerson were planning a March meeting of NFL alumni to address collective bargaining issues for retirees and potential investors. So Duerson had told teammates at a November reunion of the 85 Bears that he was thinking about a move back to Chicago, where he remained an iconic figure. He appeared comfortable in sunny Isle Beach. Duerson and his wife had purchased the condo as a second home. Duerson moved there after the split. Wednesday, February 16th, Duerson speaks with his ex-wife on the phone for the last time to talk about Taylor's upcoming volleyball tournament and which games her father would attend. This is Wednesday, February 16th, February 17th when he passed. Very next day. Some trace Duerson's downward spiral to February 3rd, 2005. That's when Notre Dame campus police reportedly observed Duerson throw his wife against a wall at the Morris Inn on the edge of campus. He was charged with misdemeanor battery, and the incident cost Duerson his seat on the Notre Dame Board of Trustees. The following is definitely a viewer discretion is advised. I covered 8 athletes under my chapters on concussions in my autobiography, and all 8 of them committed suicide, and all 8 of them had the exact same last words: send my brain to. Send my brain to Dr. Omalu, send my brain to BU, Boston University, or send my brain to the NFL Brain Bank. They all wanted their brains to be looked at for CTE. Thursday, February 17th, 3 a.m. Eastern, Alicia Duerson received a text message from her ex-husband. I love you. I always loved you. I love our kids, he wrote. He follows with another text asking that his brain be donated to the NFL. She calls him several times, no answer. Then a final text: please see that my brain is given to the NFL Brain Bank. What would the NFL want with Dave Duerson's brain? This is going to be a motif through these athletes. Donate my brain. About 3 years ago, more than a decade removed from an 11-year career that took him from the Bears to the Giants to the Cardinals, Duerson noticed something was not right. It started mildly, progressively became more problematic. Blurred vision, headaches, memory loss, problems spelling common words. He talked specifically about a pain on the left side of his brain. Now, when I get to my chapters about what my experience is, I cover blurred vision, headaches, memory loss, and having episodes. When he was in Chicago not long ago, the former hard-hitting safety could not remember how to get to places. That aggravated him because he could always go anywhere in the city or state without having to look at a map, his wife said, ex-wife, Alicia Duerson said. Now, there's the issue that that stresses this. He had a problem getting around the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, which he never needed a map before, and now he had to use a map, and that was very aggravating, very frustrating. The problem being a smart man and going to Notre Dame makes him a smart man is you realize that there's something wrong. You're smart enough to realize and see there's something wrong in the brain and something's not right. He couldn't remember when and where Taylor's volleyball tournament was. His ex-wife has to remind him repeatedly. That's one thing, repeating. I always forget things. Duerson was aware of his problem. He began writing everything down. He took to making detailed notes on conversations, showing little trust in his memory. Little trust in his memory and writing everything down. I have definitely been doing that. If you knew Dave, he was a brilliant man, Lucy Duerson said. Notre Dame makes him pretty smart. Duerson had a bachelor's degree in economics from Notre Dame and a certificate from the Harvard Business School Executive Education Program. Now, his bachelor's degree was in economics, not some like artwork or arts or underwater basket weaving. Economics is a major means you've got to be smart. He had no problem formulating words or keeping a thought pattern, she said. But lately he felt he wasn't the same person. He was unable to do the simple things. Now, formulating words, that becomes a problem. Keeping a thought pattern. I can keep a thought going and then I can't keep it together towards the end of it. It just doesn't work. So I understand that. Friends and family members fear Duerson suffered from chronic traumatic CTE, the brain disease that has been found in at least a dozen retired football players. CTE was discovered and named by Dr. Omalu from the movie Concussion. He appeared symptomatic, they said, but only a posthumous study of his brain tissue can confirm the presence of CTE. That means he has to have his brain tissue studied under a microscope after his death, after autopsy, or during autopsy. Craig Duerson, who followed his father's footsteps at Notre Dame, wondered in an interview with New York Times last week why his father couldn't have played baseball instead. In a Senate Commerce Committee hearing in 2007, Duerson testified on behalf of the NFLPA Players Benefit Board. Another player, former Vikings Brett Boyd, had testified that he believed his depression and cognitive impairment were caused by playing football. Now, the disagreement is it was caused by playing football. It's sports. It's the head trauma. It's the concussions. This was a fight trying to get money from the NFL, I think. But there are WWF or WWE females that had CTE. They didn't play football. Duerson questioned the assertion according to the transcript of the hearing in regard to the issue of Alzheimer's. My father, 84, and as I had mentioned earlier, Senator spent 30 years at General Motors. Duerson testified. He also has Alzheimer's, and his brain damage was never played a professional sport. So the challenge, in terms of where the damage comes from, is a fair question. It's the concussions. See, again, this was all in court, committees, trying to blame the NFL for everything. It's the concussions. It's a sport. Soccer, wrestling, hockey, they're all contact sports. Did Duerson take his life because of what happened to his brain? I think it was more if he wanted scientists to learn from his brain to help other players. He was clearly a smart man and clearly a leader. I don't want to say that was the reason, at least Duerson said. I don't want to give a reason because I don't know. I only know what he told me. Get my brain to the NFL. I think there is something wrong with the left side of my brain. Thursday, 2:30 p.m., Ben David gets a call from Antoinette Sykes. She has not heard from her fiancé and is concerned. Could he check on Duerson? Ben David goes to Duerson's unit, knocks on the door. Nothing. Yells, Dave, you there? He smells something, smoke. Must be one of Duerson's cigars. Mary Ellen Hayes, the 79-year-old mother of Duerson's best friend from high school in Muncie, Indiana, said that the 2003 death of Duerson's mother, Julia, changed him. During his interview with Truck, Duerson said he lost his best friend when his mother died one day before Thanksgiving, 2 days before his own birthday. His father, Arthur, died 2 years ago on November 18, 2019. Okay, I consider myself strong and all that, Duerson told Trucks. I've lived the so-called celebrity life. They considered me the golden child of my family, but I think they missed the part where I'm human. And so that was profound. The flip that is that I played into the plan God had. Every birthday and Thanksgiving, I will also remember saying goodbye to my parents. Thursday at 2:40 p.m., Ben David calls Sykes. He sends 2 security guards to check on Duerson's parking spot. They radio back from the indoor lot saying Duerson's black SUV is there. Sykes sends Ben David an email granting permission to use an emergency key to enter Duerson's condo. Duerson was a captain and team MVP at Notre Dame, All-American and 4-time Pro Bowl player, and 2-time Super Bowl winner. He was a man of big ambitions, big dreams, a proud man. At one point, he thought he could be mayor of Chicago. Friends said he had conversations with departing Mayor Richard Daley about his possibility, and he told them Daley was willing to help. Another point, he thought he would succeed the late Gene Upshaw as executive director of the NFLPA, the NFL Players Association. He found success quickly after his playing days, at one point owning 3 McDonald's franchises before growing in the annual series sales of Fair Oaks, his sausage company. He grew it from $24 million to $63.5 million. One day he realized he could not live up to the self-expectations. Duerson used to think of himself as a perfectionist. That changed when he saw comedian Jim Carrey on The Tonight Show talking about being a perfectionist as a comedian and actor. Jim Carrey says, perfection is God's business. I just try for excellence. Duerson told Trucks, and I have to tell you, I dropped in front of the TV, man. I dropped to my knees in front of the TV and said, look, I'm sorry. Forgive me for my arrogance. Thursday, 2:50 p.m., Ben David and the 2 guards go back to the condo and try to open the door. Something is in the way. The door won't open. At 2:51, he calls 911. Who knows how Duerson's life would have been different if he had been able to collect what was owed to him. See, there's something I'll talk about later. I don't know what's owed to him. This is about his brain injury. No one had an answer. When Duerson filed for personal bankruptcy in September, he showed liabilities of $14 million, and his own real estate asset was $36 million federal court judgment that his food company had won in 2004. Duerson never collected it because his freezer supplier that owed him the money filed for bankruptcy in 2005. They're going with the financial stuff. I think the brain injury and the CTE disassociates from any reasons like bankruptcy and depression for what he did. Duerson turned the exact Swan F. Smith said he believes Duerson's failure to collect the judgment played a substantial role in filing for bankruptcy. That's probably true. Duerson sold his stake in Fair Oaks in 2002 and started Duerson Foods. That company was forced into receivership in 2006. In 2008, Duerson was hired to be president of the division of Archibald Frozen Desserts that would serve fast food restaurants. His hiring failed to boost sales, and Duerson was out after less than a year, according to Archibald chief executive Ed Meyer. Duerson started selling off assets. In 2008, he sold a Rolex watch, Davy Pond in Davie, Florida. Last June and July, he sold his Mercedes C320 and the 2001 Harley Davidson motorcycle. He also sold his wedding ring at the jewelry exchange. Duerson's bankruptcy filing listed that his year-to-date income from employment was $16,000, and his monthly expenses were exceeding his monthly income. In 2009, he claimed that he lost $5,000 from running his business. In 2008, his income from employment was $45,000, according to the filing. On the bankruptcy petition, Duerson estimated the value of Didi's favor, which he owned solely, was $1,400, including his office furniture. Joe Tavis, an attorney representing the bankruptcy trustee, spoke with Duerson about a month ago and said, like many people going through bankruptcy, he sounded distraught. But Duerson wasn't the typical filer. He conceded. For a guy who has been a Pro Bowl football player to be going through this is not to be tough and embarrassing, Tavis said. He sounded upset. Despite his financial problems, Duerson had designs of launching a financial literacy program for former players with Davis, who was scheduled to join Duerson in talking to the NFL alumni in March. Duerson ran out of funding. When I look back at the conversation, Davis said, I would imagine in an ironic way, it created a struggle within Dave to be telling people how to make money when he had so many money problems that took a toll on him. Thursday, 3:05 p.m. Paramedics arrive at Ocean One. Ben David brings them to Duerson condo. They push the door open, knocking aside a chair that had been blocking the door. Well, sir. 3 police officers arrived seconds later. They asked Ben David and the 2 security guards to leave the floor and enter Duerson's unit, guns drawn. Inside the condo, a still body lies on the bed. A bronze trophy from the 1987 Walter Payton Man of the Year sits on the coffee table. And there are notes, several notes. The notes are not addressed to anyone specifically, but they provide Duerson's family with everything they need to know. Everything they need to know. Where to find important documents, financial information, specific instructions about his wishes. Veterans of the police department who responded to the call and have been to many similar scenes never have encountered a suicide planned and executed so meticulously. That's the smart people. He knew something was wrong, and even to the end, he was very meticulous about what he did in his planning. In one of the notes, Duerson wrote about his failed business deals, about his family problems, and about seeing stars, blurry vision, having difficulty spelling simple words. Even in the end, seeing stars, blurry vision, difficulty spelling simple words. And he wrote again that he wanted to have his brain donated to science. At 10:20 p.m., the body was removed from Ocean One. People from the phase of Duerson's life, his childhood, his playing days, his business life, his family, remain in disbelief. During a memorial installment of Duerson's internet radio show, his fiancée acknowledged she is struggling with what happened. I know that my baby's soul is in a better place, and he is at peace, so that I would feel good about it. So like I said, but I miss him here in the physical world. Being aware of Duerson's personality, it was shocking to me, said Richard Dent, who was with Duerson, was part of the Bears' great draft class of '83. I felt pain. He had a house on Lake Bundling, and we all used to hang out there. Back then, I always thought he would be a politician. He was a strong-minded, always fighting for something better for the players and former players. Maybe at age 50, he just couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, but look what Dent just said. I always thought he would be a politician. He was so strong-minded, always fighting for something better for the players and the former players. I think he continued that to help players and former players and future players. Back in Muncie, Hayes put it this way: when I found out it was suicide, I just couldn't believe it. It didn't make any sense. I'm sure his thinking wasn't right. What a great thing to donate his brain, thinking of others. See, again, disbelief. When I found out it was suicide, I just couldn't believe it. Didn't make any sense. But to me, it makes sense. To many of the athletes, it makes sense. It made sense back then. I knew he was depressed, but not to the point of taking his life. Lucia Duerson said, Dave was a strong man. He loved life. He loved helping others. He would always put everything and everyone first before himself. I guess a lot of things caved in for him. Family problems, financial problems, fear that his brain was failing him. Now Dave Duerson is gone. He shot himself in the heart. Tribune newspaper's reporter Juan Ortega contributed from Florida.